Thank you, everyone. Good morning. It's good to have this lovely audience to this very narrow, specific type of topic. But with the idea is that I work at Exponential Science, which is a foundation that has different type of research, specifically within blockchain, AI, and other topics. And as well, try to bring some of that research and make some commercial application. And as well, I'm a researcher at the University College London Center for Blockchain Technologies. So I'm going to start especially with this topic, given that this talk is within the education track for this conference, to show you how you can try to understand the field first, what things have been doing, and how you can use it to demystify some conceptions that might be there, and then how you can take that knowledge and then use it working with the public sector, private sector, to guide them and to show them how things are truly happening, what the research community is actually doing. So for that, this is a paper that we did with some of my colleagues from University College London, from Munich University in Austria, Peking University, and it's a joint collaboration. You're going to see why. It's because of the amount of data that we were processing at the time. Yes.
Oh, can you try again, maybe?
Yeah. Okay, there is. So the research motivation, as I mentioned to you, was mainly because distributed ledger technology has had a big increase in adoption and evolution. Some new topics, new languages, new terms constantly appear. So, for example, meme coins, you can say it was kind of like a recent development. Then you have NFTs and other type of terms that appear. And then at the same time, there's we can argue a slight misconception about the energy consumption of distributed ledger technology, given the main attention that one of this type of blockchain is given to, despite that there are several among them. And then there was a lack of systematic literature review to understand what the research community was doing at the time. So for this, some of the research contributions that we had was we created one of the first name entity recognition data sets. So in this case, a name entity is, for example, you have a sentence, and in that sentence, you talk about a person, an organization, and you want to label that person, the organization. But in this case, you apply it to label, for example, if your text is talking about a consensus mechanism, or if it is talking about, for example, a blockchain name, to try to see what's happening in the literature scale. And at the same time, we did this to play a special emphasis on ESG-related topics, given our work that we do with some government and public organizations who have specific goals and focus on this, especially in development goals-related topics. I wouldn't spend too much time on the methodology, but I provided here just as an example so you can understand how we carry this research. We can discuss later, and given the time limitations, so I'm just going to show you the high level. This is what we did in terms of data collection, and then some labeling of the data. This research was carried a bit before large language models came, so most of the labeling was manual labeling with a subject matter expert. To also, if we have done it now, probably we might have had some hallucinations related for that labeling. And then we use you can see some verb-based type of models. So this is a different architecture to GPT-related models. So this is, we can discuss later, but it's different to GPT models. And then through that, we can do a filtering of a big corpus of academic papers and then understand its evolution. Now, what I mentioned to you is that for the data labeling, we try to find within the text whether it's being talked about in a specific topic, and then label that text. So, for example, you see Bitcoin there. We label it as a blockchain name, and then the creator Nakamoto, when it was created, etc. And to do that, we use as a base a taxonomy representing the whole field at the time. Of course, it has evolved, it has changed, but the taxonomy represented that. And this is some of the main categories that we use for it. And this is how our labeled data looks like. And in the labeled data, we can feed into the language models for later filtering. And at the high level, this is how we end up with the selection of the final data set that then we can use to understand the field evolution. These are some of the models. We're not going to go into much details, but this is just how to benchmark them, and that's the architecture. If you're curious about a bird-based transformer architecture, how that looks like, for this talk, it might not be that relevant because it's too technical, but just to give you an example. And then this is how you can apply it. So we have the raw data, and then we can use a prediction of the different labels, and then you get a label data set like this for each document. Now, after doing that, we can understand how the field looks like. So you can see there's a considerable growth in publications in it, where we see that if we plot this as a network graph, Bitcoin will be a considerable attention to it, given that you can argue that Bitcoin gave a growth to the whole DLT field in terms of more research since its appearance. But it's not only Bitcoin, because Bitcoin built in technologies that have been starting since the 1990s. For example, you can see here a cryptography topic. Within cryptography, you will see like hashing, you will see Merkle tree, etc. And then at the same time, you see when Bitcoin appears here around, how it suddenly increases in attention from the market. And then one thing that might be of interest or curious to you, that smart contracts, despite it has been discussed as a topic since the 1990s, there's barely any attention until you see this considerable jump here. And that's when Ethereum appears. So Ethereum's brought a lot of adoption and attention to smart contracts as a topic because they introduced solidity, so something that makes it more tangible, and they introduced the EVM machine, so which make possible to run those smart contracts or on a blockchain. And then the focus for this, as I told you at the beginning, was there's this conception about the energy consumption and how that's happening within, what's the attention that the academic give to it. So we look into what are the main topics, and you can see a big attention is on efficiency just after 2012. So and then at the same time, a lot of attention to sustainability and, of course, computational power. So this exemplifies the research community responding that, yes, there's big attention given to Bitcoin because of how proof of work works, but at the same time, there's a response to it. And that response comes in the form of, for example, on the other graph, you can see proof of stake, which originates from PPCoin. That's the one who, in the white paper, initially mentioned it. Although Ethereum popularized it when they adopted it, but you can see that as a response matching here with some of the topics with efficiency. And of course, proof of work, which comes from work from Hashcash. So if you look at the Bitcoin white paper, so they specifically cite the Hashcash paper about it. So now, the main contribution of this publications, if we put at the high level, is a methodology, how you can do, in this case, systematic literature review at scale using language models. In this case, not large language model, but more the initial bird-based models. And an empirical finding is Lindy's effect. So in this case, Lindy's effect refers that as the field grows, still Bitcoin remains a big focus of attention. And you can still see it in terms of market cap. So in terms of people who do trading, Bitcoin is the main one, and the main market moves with it. And then in terms of ESG, there's not that much of relative dominance of the topic. It's actually moving with the whole research community in itself. So it's mainly, I would say, probably a news-related type of thing, not too much on the research. So the research is moving at the same time together. And then, of course, as the field is growing, there's more research interest in less technical topics. So as it's moving, it's becoming more cross-disciplinary, the distributed layer technology. So you will see things with finance, you will see things more other social sciences, where they're trying to see how you can apply distributed layer technology. So it moves away from cryptography-related topics and expands into encompassing other fields. Right, so if we can, this is the general conclusions, but the main focus for this, or at least bringing it back to how this applies in our work that we do with the educational sector, is You can see this is how Ethereum ended up adopting proof of stake. They already had it as an idea, as a site since 2014. Vitalik has been talking about it until they adopted it in 2022, and they moved the transition. And this is how this graphic is from the Ethereum Foundation. It's not ours, so this is what they show in terms of before pre-merge, how much energy they were consuming, and then how that's reflected post-merge. So it's a considerable difference. So this shows how the community, not only in the research side, but also on the more industry side, are responding to this type of topics. And then this is Vitalik, of course, acknowledging that they already had plans from the very beginning to move into proof of stake. And of course, he touches on other topics that might not be relevant for this, but you can read his tweet. Now, coming back, so in our foundation, given that this type of research that we do to try to understand the field, to try to understand what is the interest that the community had, we take some of these topics. So I show you how you can use, in this case, natural language processing, applying to the blockchain field, but in a more adjacent way to understand what's happening. We take that, and in this case, we have a project with the United Nations Development Program, specifically for the Alternative Finance Lab, where, given this understanding that we have of the field, try to work with them to provide them with the knowledge that how they can tackle some of these ESG-related topics and other things by sharing our knowledge and expertise with them. So we have this project that is aimed to be a multi-year project where we are aiming to give them some of these public sector stakeholders who might not be that technical and whose field might be more on the social sciences side, who want to understand how you can apply blockchain and for the needs that they have. And then find solutions across, for example, we have 5 main pillars, but initially the objectives is that we can bring programs that we develop with them, educational programs, that can help them to implement blockchain at the governmental level, and at the same time understanding how these technologies work. So the main profile of the people that in this case we're working on is people who might have a low digital literacy and understanding, and of course they might have in the government some people who are highly motivated, who wants to work with us, and people who might already be developed in the sense that they have a legal framework, the organizations have a legal framework, and they understand the infrastructure. So for this program, we aim to work with executive levels, so that would be Minister of Political Leaderships. Through this program, we have a collaboration with the Commonwealth of Nations, more developing type of countries, so to try to work with them and see how we can apply this type of policies. And other participants will be more on the technical side, more technical team implementers who want to understand the little details of the technology and how that will work with them. So through that, as mentioned, the main pillars that we work with them. So one of them is digital payments and financial inclusion. So probably during this conference, you might hear people talking about stable coins and how they can facilitate payments, etc., and how they might work very well in developing countries rather than in more developed countries where there's better already established programs, in this case, financial system to facilitate the transfer of money. So in this case for us, it's taking some of this knowledge that we have and see how we can apply it for the digital payments. And then governance that goes tied with supply chain management. Here is for the tracking of understanding of to have tamper-proof records of how things happen and avoid issues related to corruption in some of these countries, and at the same time help them with climate resilience. Some of these countries, they have a lot of natural resources from which they can issue carbon credits that can be facilitated their tokenization and trading using a blockchain system. And finally, digital identity. This is a topic that has been a lot of discussion lately in developed countries. How you can have verifiable secure credentials. So I think during this conference, someone will be talking, we will hear about CK proofs and all that and how that can work with digital identity. So this is another topic that we work with the UNDP. But to develop this program is mainly in-person type of workshops and also online content that we have already developed with them. And then, of course, at the same time, help in incubating some of the projects I might have internally. So to summarize, I wanted to show you how you can take research to understand what's happening in the field, how you can map everything that's being done, and try to demystify some of the things that probably might be a lot in the news, that might be exaggerating some topic for to get more attention into them, but it's not necessarily what's happening in itself in the industry, and how we can take the knowledge and then collaborate and work with institutions, with the government organizations like the UNDP, to help develop programs that can be of support by a majority of populations. So that's from my side, so I don't know if anyone has any question.